Welcome to Art Discourse. This is a show where Chrissy and I draw a question from a machine and we answer it. We are not experts, but we know a fair amount of things. Some of it random, some of it intentional.
What are some better ways that I can promote myself as an emerging artist in a professional, eye-catching way? Let's focus on eye-catching.
Hello, it's me again. I'm calling from a faraway land. Pick up the phone. I'm calling from a different time zone. Heard you are a pretty good source for major topics in art discourse. Hello, I'll leave my questions as a message at the dial tone.
Eye-catching ways to promote yourself. I like that. Let's think of some of the ways that we've promoted ourselves that is different than just like what you expect. I can think of two in my head right now.
Recently, we opened a little tiny mini gallery.
Kyle and I aren't people that devote a lot of time and energy to making what one at this present moment would consider like a TikTok dance video. But we did for this. I found a trending dancey video and we modeled ourselves after it. I'll put a link to the video in the description below. And it was really outside of our comfort zone. We bless all of you TikTokers that do that, because it took a really long time, like way longer than I was expecting. So yeah, that was like a very different eye-catching.
It was different
thing.
and eye-catching, and it had really good traction online.
Yeah.
I think because it was like fun and playful.
And really outside of what we would normally do. When we first started out, we were fortunate enough to have a friend of ours, Renee Dick, who's a graphic designer. Well, I don't actually know what Renee's up to right now, but at the time he was doing graphic design in the area, and he always had just an abundance of interesting ways to promote and marketers. Like he was like a spring.
He was a little idea machine.
Oh my gosh, amazing. And such an asset to have when we first started out, let me tell you. Anyways, one of the things that we did when we first started Sparkbox, which I thought was like really funny because we didn't have a good advertising budget. It was very, very small. So he was like, why don't you go to the classified section of the newspaper and take out an ad in every single section where it is a black like square with the Sparkbox logo, and then like, so if it was like looking for, it'd be like looking for creative people to come and take workshops at Sparkbox Studio, and if it was like offering, it'd be like offering creative workshops at Sparkbox Studio. But it just meant that when you open the classified page, we were everywhere. We were like all over the page because it only cost, I think, like $15 or something.
It was
to
not
take
expensive
out.
to take out a classified.
Yeah, so maybe even less than that. So for a very little budget, we basically filled a whole page of the newspaper with our ads, which was fun, and it looked really fun. I don't know if I have an example of that somewhere, but if I do, I'll post it up. If I don't, then you won't see it here.
These examples are great. Trying to put a stress on how you advertise yourself as being like essentially like trying to make a viral video every time is a lot of stress.
Yeah, don't do that.
Because it's for like an emerging artist, right? So what are some better ways that I can promote myself as an emerging artist in a professional, eye-catching way? Something to like kind of consider when you are making like a push on social media is to develop a consistency amongst that. For example, our Instagram page, we have a rhythm of 3 images up at a time. And so we've kind of given a bit of foresight into the planning of that, so that it has some sort of like feeling and consistency, which builds into the brand of the business. And like there are many YouTubers and things like this and other people that do similar things where like all of their videos look somewhat similar. They have a similar color palette or things like that. And I think that like those considerations and that consideration to that detail is what I think captures a lot of individuals.
Yeah, trying to find a way to like stand out right now is definitely a challenge.
Yeah.
And when I think about things that really stand out to me, usually there's something that is just so outside of what I'm used to that it's hard to ignore it. When I lived in Toronto many years ago, I was walking around Kensington Market and I saw a little wooden block, and it was like clearly placed, like it hadn't been dropped. And so I picked it up, and on the edge of the block there was a website that had been like pressed into it, like I'm assuming with some kind of punch. And so then, of course, I took the block and I looked up the website, and it was a group of artists that were organizing an art show where if you found the block, you could do something with it creatively and then submit it to the show. So anybody that found the block had an opportunity to participate in this art exhibition. So it was like completely based on chance. I don't know. I ended up putting the block back out into the world because I didn't have time to think creatively about the block.
Yeah.
I also didn't have a studio or any art making materials with me. So I put it back out in the world, but I loved this like idea of chance, this idea of like, you know, an sort of surprise opportunity. And it was a totally unique. I'd never seen anything like that before. So that was really neat. That was like a very eye-catching and strange way. I know it's like maybe a bit absurd, but not like practical for everybody. But I do think when you kind of push yourself to the edges of what's possible, that's when you can really like stir up some interesting stuff. We go to this printmaking conference every year, and it's like craft sales. Like there's a lot of the same, you know, like not same stuff, but like the same sort of rhythm to it. You unpack your stuff, the tables are the dimensions of the table. We have at craft sales been trying over the years to like, how do we make ourselves feel different in a space of, you know, kind of the same things. Shelves, maybe somebody makes some shelves. So for one of the craft sales that we did, well, I guess series of craft sales, we decided to make a completely different kind of booth. So how can we stand out as something special? So we made a booth that folds up like accordion style and is like, how tall? 8 feet tall?
It's 7 feet tall and like I think 5 feet by 2.5 feet or 3 feet. It's whatever like the blueprint of like a folding table was. So at a lot of craft sales we had like these gray folding tables, and we got sick of that and dealing with a lot of printed matter. Like a table's a very limiting amount of surface space. So what we had done was we made this like folding booth that we measured our Pontiac Sunfire to make sure that would fit in there, and then we built this booth that would collapse up and get assembled into our Sunfire.
And it had a little window, like as if, because I wanted it to feel like we were selling like lemonade or something, like little kids.
Our first version of the booth didn't fit back in the Sunfire.
No, it didn't.
We had to cut it down.
That was a whoopsie. But like, you know, we have lots of different ideas for craft booths. Some of them we just functionally haven't figured out how to make. But, you know, sometimes it is just like kind of like thinking about what you're participating in and how to like bring your own flavor to it. At this conference that we go to, it's sort of the same thing, except for we're traveling to the States and sometimes we're flying and we're limited by what we can pack. So we made like a little cardboard, basically version of this.
Yep.
And instead of just having people come and, you know, look at prints and talk about the residency, we created a little, like, we asked them about sharing stories about times in their artistic careers where they were asked to work for free. And we recorded those, we turned them into a series of Instagram stories and Facebook stories, and in exchange for the story that they shared, they could use the little machine to get a prize. And, you know, so it was something that was really different than what you would normally get at these tables, which is basically just a sales pitch about whatever you have or whoever you are. Instead, it was about creating a dialogue. You know, it made us feel different than the rest of the tables that were at the conference at that time. You know, you have to, what are the assets that you bring to the table? What's the essence of what you're doing? And how can you, you know, use that to your advantage? You know, Kyle and I are really interested in community. We're really interested in having a sincere dialogue with other artists. And we try our best to infuse what we do with that mandate. And usually it means that we create stuff that feels authentically us.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that sort of answers the question.
I think that when it comes to promoting yourself and trying to stand out, like there isn't a list of like things you can do. You just kind of have to find the spaces where people haven't done something yet.
Anything else to add?
There's so much that goes into that.
I think with all of these questions, as we continue to talk about things, as we continue to share our story and what we've done and what we've seen, we're just going to keep building on all of them. And what we say here, we might have an even better question to basically, answer to this question, like 7 episodes down the road.
That's very true.
Yeah. This is just what we can think of right now in this 15-minute moment. We hope that you liked it.
Goodbye for now, everybody.